Shadow Minister for Education and former teacher and principal himself, Mr Jihad Dib, MLA, the President of the Teachers Guild, Dr Frederick Osman, the Guest of Honour, the Headmaster of Barker College, and author of the Trinity Grammar School's 75th anniversary history, Mr Philip Heath, past Presidents, Mrs Fran Fleeton and Mr Alan Harper, life members, councillors, colleagues and guests of the Teachers Guild of New South Wales. My name's Bradley Barr. I'm the Deputy Headmaster of Trinity Grammar School, and on behalf of the Headmaster, Mr Milton Chewers, who extends his apologies for this evening, I would like to extend a warm welcome to tonight's annual dinner and awards ceremony at Trinity Grammar School. We're delighted to be able to support the Guild, particularly as our association runs long and deep, including a number of our current and former Trinity colleagues currently sitting on the Guild Council. It's an achievement of any organisation to reach its centenary, and the fact that the Guild is celebrating 125 years is both noteworthy and a testament to its value to the profession as the oldest professional association for teachers in Australia. You'll see from the brief historical article on your tables that since its foundation, the Guild's raison d'etre has never wavered. Its aim to promote quality and collegiality in our profession is given expression tonight and each year at this annual awards ceremony. Congratulations to the recipients of tonight's awards. I hope you have an enjoyable and professionally stimulating evening. And it's now my pleasure to hand over to the President of the Teachers Guild, Dr Osman, who is our Master of Ceremonies this evening.
I'd like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. It's upon the ancestral lands that we meet tonight. As we seek to advance our own knowledge through the activities of the Guild, may we also pay respect to the knowledge embedded forever within the Aboriginal custodianship of the country. The Member of Lakemba and Shadow Minister Education, Mr Jihad Dib, MP, the Guest of Honour, Mr Philip James Heath, Deputy Headmaster, Trinity Grammar School, Mr Bradley Barr, past President, Mrs Frances Fleeton, life members and guests of the Teachers Guild of New South Wales. The Teachers Guild of New South Wales welcomes you this evening to join in celebrating the 125 years anniversary at this 2017 annual dinner and presentation of awards. Each year, the awards honour an educator of great standing who also has a Teacher Guild association. This year, we are delighted to honour Mr Philip James Heath, who has been actively involved in education for many years as a teacher, administrator, and now as a headmaster of Barker College. I would particularly like to thank Mr Jihad Dib, the Shadow Minister and former teacher and principal himself, for making time in his busy schedule to attend tonight and help to present the awards to some outstanding educators. Mr Dib, we appreciate your connected focus on education. Whether at school, TAFE or university, and the creation of real opportunities for well-paid jobs for our students and for your time as a principal of Punchbowl Boys High School in your understanding of education system, which has led to a lasting influence on your own students. When reading your biography very carefully, I was inspired myself when a former student wrote to you. His words were, "Growing up without a dad, it was hard finding a father figure. You were the person who stood out for me. If you can influence a school to better itself, you can inspire a community. You inspired me, and now I'm studying medicine." Mr Dib, we appreciate your great work and passion for education and your personal beliefs ensuring that everyone gets a fair go. I would now like to invite you to the microphone to give us an introduction to an opening of our 2017 Annual Awards Evening.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Osmond. And I too would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land and pay my respects to elders past and present. And a great deal of late, I've been talking about a number of things when I do that introduction, in particular, as some people try to work out what it is to be Australian and who actually is Australian and who isn't Australian. I like to remind people that there are really only two Australian stories. One is the Indigenous story that started with man and woman at the first sunrise. And every other story is a story of migration into Australia. And so we as teachers, we know the complexities of our societies that sometimes politicians and public commentators don't know. But the fact of the matter is that there are 26 million Australian stories. And every single one of those stories not only needs to be heard, needs to be told, needs to be valued, and a recognition that every one of those stories, when intertwined, create that beautiful fabric of Australian society. Dr. Heath, I'll talk about you in a moment. Brad, thank you very much. Look, I'm a fairly informal sort of a person. You'll see there aren't any notes, so later on when I start looking in my pocket, you know I'm struggling a bit. I've been told not to speak for long, just 45 minutes, so I'm going to keep it just to 5. I think Frederick was sort of going, oh, mate, he was trying to be really nice when he was trying to tell me 5 minutes, but believe me, I'll go 5 minutes. But once people start whacking their heads on the table, then I'll know that's a really good indicator. The other one that works is scratching your head, pulling out your phones, checking your Facebook. I kind of know the cues, so just do that. So, Brad, thank you very much, and thank you to the school for hosting this fantastic evening, and Leslie as a past president. Now, I made a decision about 2.5 years ago to leave somewhere that I absolutely loved. We're all educators in this room, and I still refer to myself as an educator. I still don't quite call myself a politician. I'd like to think that one day, you know, I will, but it's in a way I know that what the recognition that teachers are held in, and I know what teachers can actually do to change people's lives. And that's actually the reason that we go into teaching. We go into teaching not for the money or for the so-called holidays that don't exist. If you're a decent teacher, you don't get those holidays. You don't get those hours. Decent teachers actually give twice what they work at the coalface just in their preparation. Yesterday was a religious celebration, and I was walking down to Lakemba Mosque with my dad. It's a tradition that we've been doing since I was a kid. And now I'm just a little bit older than a kid. I still probably haven't grown mentally much more than when I was 10. But we were walking along and I saw that very same boy. I was just almost going to be teary then, and you know, he just came up and just gave me a big bear hug. The guy is huge. He's so big now. You know, to get a big bear hug from an ex-student is such a nice thing, and it's amazing how that boy, he didn't have a father, and he didn't have a father figure. He didn't have a positive male role model, and I never set out to be his male role model, but inadvertently that's what I became. And this was a young man that we probably could have expelled 10 times over, but I know where he would have ended up. If he wasn't at school, I wouldn't have given him much longer before he got himself into some serious trouble, and I probably would have visited him somewhere where it wasn't a very pleasant place to be. And it's amazing, those little stories. It's like the story of the young man that came to our school as a refugee. He was the first African boy in our school. And so you can imagine, you know, he sort of drew a little bit of attention. He had terrible teeth. I always remember his teeth. He could hardly speak English, and he had no mother or father, and he came from Sierra Leone, so you kind of work out that the situation wasn't really a good one. Well, that young man, one of the teachers actually used to take him to the dentist, the free dental place there. Eventually got his teeth fixed. He had the most beautiful smile. That young man actually then went on to become, we got him to graduate. He'd never been to a school. He came in year 9. He'd never been formally schooled before. By the time he finished year 12, we'd actually take him from this frightened kid into a man. And you talk about the impact that teachers have. So I see him quite regularly because I like to hang around the area, still visit the old haunts like the station to tell the kids to hurry up to school and get my shopping from Punch Bowl. And he saw me a little while ago and he said that, his girlfriend was pregnant. And so, of course, I was a bit prudent. I said, mate, aren't you married? And he goes, oh, no, we're going to get married. I said, okay, look, I'm not going to judge. And I said, well, mate, let me know how it all goes. Like, I'm just in Roseland. So he pops in about 3 months later and he said, oh, sir, he still calls me sir. Sir, we're going to have the baby very, very soon. And he's got my number. As I said, if there's ever anything, if you find yourself in any trouble, make sure you let me know. Like, he doesn't have any family, so we became his family. He said, oh, sir, would it be okay if you came into when she's having the baby, like you stand with me? I said, Sam, I love you, but I don't love you that much. But it's that story, and I wasn't intending to tell that story, and you just sort of read out Omar's thing, and I thought, that's what teachers do. They're the untold stories. They're the reason that we actually keep coming back day in and day out. We get measured so often in terms of a test. We get measured so often in terms of how our kids go, whether it's NAPLAN, whether it's the HSC, whether we meet certain benchmarks. But we don't place enough emphasis in education on the things that are actually really important. And the fundamental reason for education, which is to actually teach a generation, to raise a generation, to create a better future. And so when I left the school, there were many tears. From me. I don't think the kids were crying. I was a bit of a sook. And the night before I left, I wrote every teacher a letter that night. And I probably hadn't cried so much in my life, because every person got a letter, and I just wrote a personal story about them and to them. And it was really good because it was a bit cathartic and it got it all out of the system. But the reason that I made that jump from being a principal or being an educator into politics was because I wanted to see if I could make that difference on that bigger scale, to represent what teachers have to say, to speak about education with the knowledge of what education is. Maybe I'm not the expert, but a lived experience is certainly a lot better. And I know that when I was working in schools, I would go to meetings and I would think, hey, come on guys, you're saying this stuff, but you don't know what it's like. You actually don't know what it's like. You keep telling teachers to do more and more and these expectations, but you can't just keep adding more stuff, more ingredients into the mix. Something's got to give. And so it was a little bit of that. And I also wanted to make that point really clear. I've worked in disadvantaged schools, public schools, but I really don't like the public versus private debate. I think we don't need that debate. The debate that we need to have is, what do we actually do to make sure that every single child gets the best opportunity? We don't need to have like a class war. That's not what it is. So if every child wants to go wherever they want to go, good luck to them. My job is to make sure that they don't not go to their local school because it's not good enough. They don't go to their local school, they go to the local non-government school for whatever reason. Maybe it's a faith-based reasons, maybe it's because that's where their family went. Maybe it's the choice they want to make. But getting this idea that it's public versus private, all that is destructive to education, and we can't have that. That is not what education is about, in my opinion. So the fact that the Guild is cross-sectoral is so incredibly important. And now for a little bit about the Guild. So I'll start my speech soon. So, thanks. Yeah, as you know, all teachers tell really bad dad jokes. So 125 years. 125 years doesn't come along easily. And 125 years only stays that way because there's something that the Guild gives. I see teachers in this room of various generations. To those who are in the earlier part of their career, use the elders as your mentors. Ask them for advice. Take on board what they have to say. And to those who are more experienced, get some of the enthusiasm of the young people as well, because it's actually the great mix that we need. We don't want our kids all being taught by the exact same person. We need our kids being taught by people who have had incredible life experiences, because school isn't about one size fits all. And our teachers can't all be exactly the same, because our students aren't all exactly the same. And the end product isn't always going to be exactly the same. But the thing that dictates what we do is the why. And why do we do it? Because we want to give every single child the opportunity to be the best they can. And for some kids, it's going to be different than it is for other kids. For some kids, it may simply be the importance of making sure they pass their HSC, that they sit their HSC. For others, it's about trying to get into a particular course. But what we need to do is we need to know as educators that by the time that child has finished with us, that we have set them up so that they can make the right choices in life. And you'll often hear me talk about choices in life, because we can spoon-feed kids as much as we want, but that's actually not helping. What we need to do is we need to make sure that we give them the tools and the skills. And you hear about 21st century skills, but we need to teach them how to use those skills, not just to teach them, because everyone can tick a box. And I'm not silly enough to just know that you just tick a box and that's sort of where it's at. So what do I hope? I hope that one day, maybe let's say March 29, 2019, not the days in my head, we can rub out the shadow bit and I can actually be the Minister for Education, and I'm banking. Anyone who lives here in Lakemba, let me tell you, make sure I see you. But The reason being is not so that I can actually say I'm the Minister for Education, so that I can actually say, let's get down to work, let's see what it is that we need to do. And one of the first things that I said I would do, and I've already got it, is making sure that we give all the opportunities to people who are in all stages of their career, but also making sure that in the ministerial office, we've got people who have got school experience, because we've got people making decisions about education and they don't have that educational background. And I think it's a really important thing that we need to consider. But enough about me, he says, let's talk about yous. Yeah, so thanks for picking up my grammatical mistake, yeah. Because I didn't want anyone to think that I did that like accidentally. That was on purpose. I did set the Year 9 NAP plan the other day, because some of you would know that I go on a fair bit about NAP plan at the moment. I'm not a fan of, especially the pre-requirement for the HSC. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to sit the exam myself. I'm trying to convince some of my colleagues to do it, but they're a bit reluctant. Thought, you want to make a decision, put yourself in that position, and then do it. Do it in the 45 minutes, see if you can do it, and let's see if you don't make a mistake. Philip, I've known you for a long time, and there's a lot of people who are getting acknowledged today, but I have known Philip for a long time. I think we first met down in Canberra. When you were down in Canberra, it would have been about 2009, 2010. We seemed to just constantly bump into each other. It was at the principals conference, I think, with then the Deputy Prime Minister, Julia Gillard, and we were she did a conversations with principals. I thought, wow, how cool is that? We get to go down and, you know, it was great. Got to go down to Canberra, you know, visit the museum and all that sort of thing. But she actually had us working. But Philip and I kind of struck up a friendship really quickly. We had very similar beliefs in what education is. Very different school contexts. Very, very different school contexts. But the belief in the value of education was exactly the same. The belief in what we wanted to provide our students was exactly the same. And the belief that we want to give back in whatever capacity we have was exactly the same. And then we bumped into each other a couple of other times, you know. It seemed like any time they wanted a principal's thing, Philip and I must have been on their mailing list. We must have not rejected the spam email to begin with. But I did follow, I followed your career, and I'm glad that you're back in, well, I'm glad you're in Sydney, and I'm looking forward to coming out for a visit in Sydney. The thing that I really like about you, Phil, look, the thing I really like about you is that it'd be very easy to say, hey, I'm at a school where it's pretty prestigious. I really don't need to do much more. You know, I've got kids, I need to just focus on my kids. But over and over, and wherever you go, you've opened up the doors for those kids who don't have the opportunities. And we know that education is the great opportunity. We can talk as much as we want about aspiration, but we need to provide that ladder for the people to be able to get to their aspiration. We can't just tell them dream. How are they actually going to get to their dream? And you do that. And that special love that you got for the Indigenous kids is so important. If we as a nation are a great, wealthy, multicultural, well-educated nation, we can't close the door behind us. We've got to keep the door open all the time and make sure that every single person, wherever they may be, gets that opportunity. And that's my admiration for you, Philip. And you know, and that's coming from the heart, mate. And I think it's really fantastic what you do. And I know that in this room there are many Philips, because every one of us is a Philip. Every one of us does something that changes somebody's life. And it's not always the special moment. You're not going to get that one special moment that you say, that was my greatest moment in education. No one has that one special moment. What we have is hundreds of moments. And only teachers get to have those hundreds of moments. And it could simply be the child who says, thank you. The child who finally it clicks with them. The child who comes to you because they've got nobody else to talk to. You're the only person who maybe treats them with dignity and with respect. And you actually see them as a human being. They're the hundreds of moments. And they're the moments that when you actually move away from a school, that actually keep you going, because that's the thing that drives us. We're not driven by money. We're not driven by holidays. We're not driven by prestige. We're driven by the absolute genuine desire and vocation to make a difference. And the phrase is used often enough, but only teachers, and I say this, only teachers genuinely know what it is to make a difference. And just to wrap it up, I'm going to give you a little anecdote, or not even an anecdote, just a little story. So in Parliament, lots of things happen in Parliament, and I remember my first little bit in Parliament, I thought, mate, this is what's going on. And especially question time. If you ever tune into question time, it is like I know this has been recorded, but it's the worst behaviour you will ever see. The worst thing is sometimes I come out of Parliament, like out of question, I think, I behaved terribly. I really did. I was calling out, I was interrupting, I was interjecting, all the things that would have got some kid cleaning up. Some kid, all I see, like, oh, and the worst thing is when a speaker says to me, "Member for Lakemba, you should know better than that." It's like, oh, that's like when you say to the school captain, "You should do better than that," you know. But you spend your days as a teacher pulling people up. That's what you do. And it seems sometimes the worst thing about the politics is you seem to spend some of your time trying to push people down. And that's a really hard thing when your mindset is not that. Our mindset is to look at the very best, is to be collaborative, is to bring people together. So this person thought they were giving me a really big insult when I was talking about something, and obviously I must have been talking like a teacher, because that's how I talk. And he goes, "You know, your problem is you still think like a teacher." And just straight away I said, that is a compliment to me. The moment I stop thinking like a teacher, then this is not the right job for me. If I stop thinking like a teacher, then I shouldn't be looking after the education. And that's what I'm going to remind you of all of the time. And of course, I'm not going to try it in Latin, but when we do teach, we do learn. It's a great honour to be here amongst all of you. To every single award winner tonight, congratulations. We don't do it for the awards, but it is nice to get recognition of some sort. And to the Guild, thank you, Frederick, for this, and for everybody who supports it. When we support each other, we actually make sure that we lift each other when times are really tough. So congratulations, thanks, and thanks again to the school for having us here tonight. Looking forward to a really lovely evening. Thank you, everyone.
Gerard, just wanted to, on behalf of everyone here tonight, and particularly the Teachers Guild of New South Wales, we value your vision and what your approach and how you actually come across to people. A small token of our appreciation for being here tonight, a Teachers Guild of New South Wales scarf, which is less than $100, so we don't have to declare it.
I'll wear it one day, that'll be the declaration. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Nice.
And hopefully you can wear it one day at one of our events.
I will.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gerard. As the Guild celebrates a long, impressive, honourable history of the service, support and training of vocation teaching, always maintaining its foundation aim to promote in all possible ways the care of education. I encourage you all one day to read our history, and as you came to this room, you would have received our history published by Beverly Fletcher on the care of education. And also to emphasise a wonderful article prepared by Mr. Rick Stevens on the Teachers Guild in New South Wales, 125 years, where are we now? As we celebrate our 125 years, our members were also distributed tonight, and our guests, with our new Guild pins. We are very proud of those pins. And we, as council, we wanted to do this for tonight, to give our members and also our awardees the opportunity to wear those guilds and one day remember the Teachers Guild of New South Wales. And always uphold the motto, I teach that I may learn. It has been a delight to see the ongoing development of the Guild, to recognise the impact it's having on the teaching profession, and to acknowledge the reinforcement and encouragement it's providing through the awards to some truly outstanding contributions for beginning teachers and research awards. Congratulations to all award recipients. I would also like to acknowledge the support of all our award panels on all their time and expertise in shortlisting, interviewing as part of our selection process for these awards. I would also like to particularly acknowledge our award sponsors, which include Anzac Education, represented tonight by Simon Withers and Michael Evans. Anzac places exceptional teachers in vibrant education settings around the world, always helping educators make the right choice enjoying personalised support through your career journey, whether you're a graduate returning to work or a community leader. Our Teachers Mutual Bank, we put you first. We'd particularly like to thank David Herring in being here tonight and representing the Teachers Mutual Bank. The 2017 awards have been benefited from the generous sponsorship by Anzac Education and the Teachers Mutual Bank. We thank you. The program for the evening will include the presentation of the awards for the teachers in the early years of teaching in primary school and secondary school divisions, the presentation of the Scholarship Prize. This is an annual scholarship donated by the Teachers Guild of New South Wales for a student in the second year of the MTeach program at the University of Sydney. The presentation of the Guild Research Award and the Teachers Mutual Bank Award, which is offered to a postgrad student or an experienced teacher who is currently completing or completed a research of direct benefit to classroom teaching. The presentation of the Honorary Fellows of the Teachers Guild of New South Wales by honouring and acknowledging outstanding members of our profession for their dedicated service in education. And their presentation to our Life member, and on this occasion, Mr. Peter Green. I hope this evening offers you a wonderful opportunity to socialise with members, colleagues and friends, and I wish you great satisfaction and enjoyment in your work and your future endeavours, and wish you a wonderful evening. I would now like to ask Mr. Alex Wharton to come through to the microphone to give us grace.
Please pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the 125-year history of the Teachers Guild of New South Wales. Tonight, we particularly give you thanks for the selfless service of those in education, for their gifts, talents and time that they invest into others. May our conversation tonight be one of thanksgiving and celebration for all you have done, and we thank you for this food which we are about to enjoy. Amen.
Peter Green. Mr. Green has served with honesty and discernment on the council since he first joined in 2002, when he was elected as Vice President. From 2003 until this year, in 2017, he has remained a Guild councillor and has contributed to several professional development events undertaken by the Guild. Mr. Green has always sought to provide professional development opportunities to educators at all levels and to expand the Guild's presence within independent schools. He's an imaginative and knowledgeable member of the Council, and the Guild has benefited greatly by his support and willingness to contribute over the last 15 years. In recognition of his outstanding commitment and contribution to the Teachers Guild of New South Wales, Mr. Peter Green is awarded with Life membership. Please congratulate him. The award of Honorary Fellowship is achieved either by self-nomination or peer nomination, and candidates must have an extensive long-term involvement in education, which may be in one or more of the following or other categories which might be deemed relevant: school education, preschool education, tertiary education, technical or vocational education, professional development, community education, and 3 other quite rigorous criteria. And for further information, you can please look at our website. It does give me pleasure to read the following citations. So our first recipient for Honorary Fellowship is Mr. Philip James Heath. From his early roles as boarding housemaster and deputy head, Mr. Heath has been privileged to lead 3 diverse schools as principal, St Andrew's Cathedral School, Radford College and now Barker College. He has served as president of the Australian Anglican Schools Network, been a member of the Board of Studies in New South Wales, chaired several committees within the Board of Studies role, been national chair of AHISA and established 2 schools for Indigenous children. Mr. Heath has authored several papers and published the history of Trinity Grammar School in 1990. He remains committed to creating justice, compassion and excellence in education, and seeking to foster a mindset that will prompt students to serve their communities, by sharing the strong experience our schools provide. He willingly supports the growth of young educators and nurtures emerging leaders. Mr. Heath has been honoured by the College of Educators and the AIS ACT with fellowships and awards. He yearns to establish more schools to support Indigenous learners and is developing the capacity to deliver practical two-way reconciliation, building a more hopeful future for our nation. Mr. Philip James Heath is a worthy recipient of the Teachers Guild of New South Wales Honorary Fellowship Award. Our second recipient, Mrs. Joy Adele Lockman. During her time at William Clark College, she has led a contingent of students in a mission trip to the Solomon Islands, where she also ran 2 conferences to provide professional development for over 80 teachers. She has also organised and run 2 Teach Meet events. Mrs. Lockman is involved in all musicals and drama productions at William Clark College, producing the Pintart program and photography for the shows. In 2012, one of her HSC visual arts students' works was selected for Art Express, a very high honour. She is currently involved in NAPLAN marking as a group leader, which is a wonderful opportunity to lead a team of teachers from various schools around Sydney. In her community work, Mrs. Lockman has been a senior leader in the Scout movement since 2005. This year she completed her Wood Badge, which is a great honour and a demonstration of advanced leadership in her role as Venturous Scout leader. Through Scouting, she's been involved in the Performing Arts section. Through this endeavour, she was producer-director for the Australian Jamboree Gang Show in 2016. This saw her lead a cast of 300 scouts and guides from all over Australia and New Zealand to perform in front of 10,000 scouts at the Sydney Jamboree. Mrs. Adele Joy Lockman is a worthy recipient of the Teachers Guild of New South Wales Honorary Fellowship Award. And our last recipient, Mr. William Wallace. He is currently Head of Junior School at Lakes Grammar, Chair of the Hunter Region Independent Schools Primary Heads Group, and has been actively involved with the High Seas Junior Heads Group for a decade. William previously served at Macarthur Anglican School as Head of Junior School and Head of Middle School. He has received an NGS Super Scholarship and has been a WSU Alumni Awards finalist. William was a targeted graduate teacher, a member of the New South Wales Teachers Federation Council, an assistant principal, and led a K-12 Federation Boys Education Lighthouse cluster of schools. Awarded a University of Western Sydney scholarship to study business and law, William chose education, becoming the 4th generation of his family in the profession. Mr. William Wallace is a worthy recipient of the Teachers Guild of New South Wales Honorary Fellowship Award.
Philip Heath achieved a first-class honours degree in Reformation History and taught at Trinity Grammar School and King's School, LE, UK, before becoming Deputy Head of William Clark's College in Kellyville, and then a Headmaster of St Andrew's Cathedral School, Sydney, where he formed the Gawara Campus for Indigenous Inner Cities children, the author of the Trinity, The Daring of Your Name, and the numerous journal articles. Mr. Heath became the 5th Principal of Radford College ACT in 2009, and the school received the Order of Australia Association ACT Award for Community Service, twice under his leadership. He was made a Fellow of the ACT branch of ACEL in 2011. Mr. Heath was appointed as the Head of Barker College in 2014, where he formed the Darginja Barker Campus for Indigenous children on the central coast of New South Wales. Mr. Heath is also the immediate past National Chair of the Association of Heads of Independent Schools of Australia. Philip is married to Alison, who is also an educator with expertise in English, literacy and language acquisition. The Guild is pleased to honour Mr. Philip James Heath in its 2017 awards. I would like to now welcome Mr. Philip Heath to address.
Thank you very much, Fred. I have to say to you that it's pretty much only my mother who calls me Philip James all the time. I haven't been called Philip James for quite some time. But I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this place, Gadigal Eora, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. Extend that same honour to any Aboriginal people who may be present with us tonight. If I was at home up at Barker, it would be Darug-Garingai people. And just to the north of the Hawkesbury River are the Darkinjung people, where we've got the little campus at Yarramalong for Aboriginal children K to 6. And we're thrilled about what's happening there. I want to also recognise the outstanding work that the Teachers Guild contributes to the professional life of educators in this state. In my view, it's the envy of other states. Here is a guild in that beautiful traditional sense, caring for its own profession, having regard for the efficacy of the profession, giving a defence for that profession in a world that's highly contested, but doing that in a way that is not industrial, but it's all about ideas and purpose. So I do regard the honour that you've given to me tonight as a very special one, Fred. And to your council and to you, thank you. Thank you, Fran, and thank you everybody that was involved in giving me this honour. I can't say to you how grateful I am it was Jihad Dib making the presentation. I don't want this to be a mutual admiration society, but indulge me for a second. There are a few politicians, and I've met a lot, whose word and purpose are joined, whose absolute commitment is to the purpose of their portfolio. And when he made the decision to leave the sector to go into Parliament, I was one of many who lamented that. And I now regard myself as probably being wrong, because he has taken his voice that was so important at Punchbowl, so important in our government sector, so important as an educational leader, and he's taken that into Parliament, where we need such voices. There are some outstanding politicians who dedicate themselves, but this person dedicates his life, as he says, to the children of this state, and it was a particular honour to receive that from you, Jihad. So thank you for that, and thank you for being with us tonight. Do you know, occasionally, if you've been alive for a while, you get an award just for being alive for a little while. About a month ago, I was made a life member of the Association of Anglican Schools of Australia. And it's just because I think I've just been alive and upright and still have a pulse for longer than most that I got that. But along the way, some enormously wonderful blessings are lavished upon your life. If you are privileged enough to be around a little bit, as I have been, if you will, a survivor, it is especially wonderful for me to be in this room, because I spent 10 years in this school and 5 years as the head of boarding in this room. And I keep being nervous, thinking, am I going to hear some sounds of the boarders upstairs? Of course, they don't live here now, they live elsewhere. But whenever there would be a function in this room, if I was in the room, I would live in mortal terror of some thumping noise, some rumble in the dorms, straight upstairs, and then Mrs. West would give me a dark look and I would have to run out and make sure that everything was settled. And I see Mr. West gazing down at me, supervising me. I had the honour of interviewing him at length for the 75th anniversary history, and his predecessor, James Wilson Hogg. And those two people had an enormous influence over my formation. Enormous. I learned so much. And in this place, in this school, I also learned so much from amazing people like Ian Moore, who is one of the great educators in the land, in my view. And I learned such a lot from him. And working in fellowship with Peter Green, who I think took over Henderson House back in the day. back in the times when I was here. So it is a special joy for me to be back in this room and to be honoured in this way and to, I hope, live up to the huge regard that you've given to me to be the guest of honour and an honorary fellow of this wonderful guild. A few months ago, I was talking to one of those stout Christian brothers, you know the type, a career-long servant of his schools, and he told me a story. As soon as he realised that I had been working in Canberra for a while, up came a thought for him that he had been in a school in Sydney taking one of those ubiquitous trips to Canberra. You know the type of thing that happens? You put everybody in a bus and you generally stop at Sutton Forest or somewhere. Well, now, before Sutton Forest, McDonald's was there, everybody had to strike out for Goulburn and the Paragon Cafe. Who admits to knowing the Paragon Cafe and its Art Deco? So imagine the Paragon Cafe. The students had been down to Canberra, had done their ubiquitous things in Canberra, and were on their way back. And they stopped at the Paragon Cafe. It was a boys' school, and the lads were restless in the Paragon Cafe. And the owner became a little bit edgy and frustrated, gave a dark look to our Christian brother, who then walked over to the boys and said, "Right, lads, everybody, back onto the bus." One child said, "But sir, no, but sir, everybody back on the bus. But sir, no, I won't take a no for an answer. Everybody get back onto the bus." So they all climb onto the bus. It trundles its way back towards the Southern Highlands on its way to Sydney. During the journey, one of the children came back to the brother and said, "Sir, there's a boy at the back of the bus crying." "Oh, what's the problem now?" Down to the back of the bus he goes. What's the matter, son?" The boy said, "I don't even go to this school." His mother had sent him to the Paragon Cafe for bread and milk. And he'd been told to get on the bus. Dutifully, he went on the bus. Well, the bus turned around and went back, found the child's home, and I suppose it was back in the day, but the brother knocked on the door and the mother opened it up and saw the boy and saw the brother and said, "What on earth happened?" "Oh, well, we put him on the wrong bus." So she said, "I thought he was a little while to get that bread and milk." I want to say that that little story, which could happen in any school at any time probably, just reminds me of perhaps a dangerous reality, that we might be on the wrong bus in our educational direction. We may be on the wrong bus. If you read the public discourse around education, what do you think matters in the national life? Performance in NAPLAN, performance in the HSC or the Year 12 equivalent, performance in PISA, but almost no regard for the soul of the children in our schools. Almost no regard for our need as educators to be purveyors of hope in their lives. Almost no regard for building up their spirit. Is it any wonder that when we look at the national life, we realise that the burgeoning issue of our generation is adolescent anxiety? And the switched-on generation has never been more lonely and more isolated. And so I read recently the education minister in Singapore making the observation that they're winning the wrong game. Did any of you see that recently? They're winning, but they're winning the wrong game. They're not winning the game of creativity and hope, of inspiration. They're winning the game of PISA. If we only regard the things that can be counted as the things that count, then I think we're on the wrong bus. Don't misunderstand me. We need students who have the capacity to deliver change and do brilliant things. So they need skills, and we should never be embarrassed about demanding them. And we need to give them confidence to think that they can keep trying. But within that confidence and capacity, there's probably something missing. That we need to build one life at a time, as Jihad was saying. One life at a time. Every child that passes before us matters so desperately much. Because we don't know their full story. And if we reduce it down to its simplest components, reading the chicken entrails of our NAPLAN scores, which I've been trying to do over the last few days, and figuring out, are we really a good school actually? How do we compare with the other schools? If that's all that matters, and has its place, don't get me wrong, then I think we're on the wrong bus. And the challenge to the profession and those who lead the profession, and the challenge to educational authorities, and dare I say it, to our civic leaders, is to imagine, how do we measure something as important as creativity and hope? Because if we think that that makes a fully formed human being who can thrive, then it ought to count well enough to try to count it. I don't know how to do that. I have no idea the answer to the question, but I know this, that we're probably on a bus that's not taking us where we want to go. And we need to think a lot about that together as a profession and elevate those things that are of the heart and are of the soul and are of hope, and place those with just as much emphasis as the technical skills that are so much more easily reckoned, listed, and then create league tables about them. Dare we dream that way? And I close with the remark that Robert Kennedy made in his celebrated Cape Town address, visiting South Africa, which at the time was in the grip of apartheid, a time when the whole world was rent asunder. Does it sound familiar? Rent asunder between the cold warring powers. And he made this comment. Forgive the gender-specific language, but I think at the time, 1963, you will understand what he meant when he said this. Each time a man stands up for an ideal, or acts to improve the lot of others, or strikes out against injustice, he sends forth a ripple of hope. And crossing each other from a million different centres of energy and daring, those ripples build a current that can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance. That's the nation I yearn for. I know you do too. And we need to be on the right bus to get there. Thank you very much.
Firstly, may I thank you, Philip, for being instrumental in developing opportunities for Indigenous students that they can have the gift of education. Your idealism and your enthusiasm are key factors in establishing these programs where Indigenous students are able to engage in a variety of educational and social experiences. As a key figure in education, in the education of these students, and whilst supporting all students in the community, you have inspired many to use their strengths and achieve success in a diverse range of careers as such. Thank you also for reminding us what our purpose is as educators and the value of our colleagues as we go about our daily life. You highlighted, obviously, the need for us to nurture the whole child. Capable students need a soul as well. And I really enjoyed the challenge that you've given us, that we certainly, I think every one of us, we need to look at a different route of our buses. So that is our challenge. Thank you very much indeed. And just accept this very small gift as a thank you. And now we're going to move on to some of the awards. Tonight we come together to celebrate the work of distinguished educators, some of whom have been fulfilling this role for a very long time and continue to achieve best practice through current research, while others are only new to the profession. They are all to be congratulated on their achievements to date, and we acknowledge the outstanding qualities which they possess. The members of the current council of the Guild are heightened by the quality of the nominations we received this year for our awards, and most particularly of our award winners. And as Fred has already done, I also wish to acknowledge and thank the members of the Awards Committee who've worked tirelessly this year to read nominations, conduct interviews, and of course to make the final decisions in relation to our awardees. For those of us who've been teaching for many years, we are reassured by these vibrant, creative, well-informed, well-trained and passionate teachers who will actually educate our nation's youth. Education for the future is in very good hands. So, Mr. Heath, would you please join me? And we're going to present first our primary division winners. And I'd also like to invite Michael and Simon from Anzac Education to also be present for these presentations. So in the primary division, our highly commended winner is Gemma Glynn from Barker College. Please congratulate her. And the winner of our primary division is Lauren Barlow from North Home Grammar School.
Good evening, Guild. I want to begin by thanking the Teachers Guild. I'm incredibly proud to receive this award, and I feel honoured that my work, dedication and creativity has been identified by such a prestigious organisation. But I'd also like to thank the Guild for even having the award, because as we all know, the first few years of teaching can be both very exciting and very overwhelming. So on that note, I'd also like to thank the other award recipients and the nominees. It is a true reflection of our commitment to teaching that we were acknowledged by our peers, our mentors and our leaders. We should all be very proud of the stages we reached during this process. Just as I hope I inspire my students, I also have people that I look up to. I do not believe I would have the confidence or passion in my teaching practice without these people. One of whom is the best teacher I know, my mum. The others I'm referring to in a very short time started out as my bosses and my supervisors. They quickly became mentors, and now I consider them dear friends. Over the past 3 years, I think I've lucked out. I've had the privilege of working under the guidance of exceptional visual arts, primary and secondary teachers. It is through their willingness to share every part of their teaching practice and philosophies with me that I was able to figure out my own teaching style. Teaching is a unique industry. It's an institution built on the trust and the commitment of the people who came before us and the people who are around us. We teach our students words like share, borrow, collaborate, when all we really should be telling them to do is to watch us, because that's what teachers do. Teachers share, they borrow, they collaborate even when they're in their rooms alone. One of my favourite quotes is, "It's not where you take things from, it's where you take them to." The full quote is actually a perfect example of this. It's one famous artist quoting another. He says, "Nothing anymore is original. Steal from anywhere that resonates with inspiration or fuels your imagination. Devour old films, new films, paintings, random conversations, dreams, street signs, bodies of water, even light and shadow. Select only the things to steal that speak directly to your soul. If you do this, your work will be authentic. Authenticity is invaluable, originality is non-existent. And don't bother concealing your thievery, celebrate it. In any case, remember what Jean-Luc Godard said, it's not where you take things from, it's where you take them to." I fully recognise that my achievements as a teacher are directly linked to the ideas and wisdom of those around me. And I thank those I've mentioned and all the staff at Northolm for constantly collaborating and sharing their experiences with me. I've always loved art, but I also love learning and I love children. It seems so simple now. I don't know why it took 4 career changes to decide a school is where I belong. I left a career in graphic design because I believe that education is the answer to bringing worlds together. I think when our subjects are used as vessels to teach children about life, that is when learning is the true and most purposeful. In my lessons, my students don't just learn how to paint. First and foremost, they learn about life, about different people, different times, and different cultures. They strive to understand ancient languages, worlds without digitalism, and people that look and act very different to them. In the end, it is this exposure that will help them learn about themselves. Going forward, this award has given me the motivation and courage to continue striving for my best, both with what I deliver and what my students can achieve. Everyone has abilities everyone has the abilities that drive them closer to where they want to be. For me, I have always believed that my best attribute is my desire to meet and exceed high expectations. So I hope that with this award, I and those around me create new expectations for me to reach. And for the Guild, I look forward for the experiences that this has introduced to me, and I hope that I can contribute the most I can in the coming years. Good evening and thank you.
And now for the secondary division. Highly commended, Robert Magner from Loreto Kilbilly. Also highly commended, Simon Thompson from Barker College. And our winner for the secondary division, Calliope Corcardis from St Vincent's College.
I've been raised in a family that has a strong passion for education. My mother has been a primary school teacher for over 20 years and heavily influenced my intrinsic motivation for learning as a school student. This led me to naturally and easily choose a career that was focused on teaching and learning, allowing me to acquire skills and experience in my tertiary education to fulfil my thirst for knowledge, action and creativity in classrooms. I've instinctively explored creativity through curiosity and as a child became easily preoccupied with endeavours in design and visual arts. My teachers provided a scope for my imagination to flourish, with a practical approach to unpacking concepts, problem solving, and challenging my own creative boundaries. I therefore chose a profession that will significantly bring together my two passions through a commitment to education. My specialised training across multiple design studio areas, design-related theories, international cultural textiles immersion, and work experience in the fashion and textiles design industry has equipped me with a comprehensive set of skills and strong content knowledge of the subjects I teach in technological and applied studies and visual arts. I consider myself primarily as an educator of learning through the creative endeavour. I aim to provide a learning experience within my subject areas which captures the interests of students and generates a deep understanding of content areas. This is channelled in my classroom through personal expression, development of knowledge, and accomplishment of differentiated challenges, and ongoing encouragement through an inspiring framework. My area of specialisation in education, along with my commitment to design and digitisation practices, has built my own fascination and continuation of learning in these contemporary fields, informing my classroom teaching practice and delivery of innovative content. My teaching strategy is always responsive to the needs of students and ensuring that content is engaging by providing real-world significance. I always aim to provide respectful, cooperative and collaborative learning experiences with a clear ethical application beyond the classroom. By fostering a welcoming environment that prioritises learning and well-being, I've ensured that students are empowered as confident and imaginative thinkers who are socially and ethically concerned with the world around them. Students are then able to effectively unpack conceptual issues and respond through generating innovative solutions. I wholeheartedly thank the Teachers Guild of New South Wales for awarding me this evening. I recognise the dedication and care that young teachers and nominees like myself bring to the profession and deeply value the opportunity to receive this award. This gives me the confidence and push to continue exploring the many avenues and specialties within my teaching career and to take the next step as I continue learning through teaching the many capabilities of our young students today. Thank you.
It gives me great pleasure to award the Guild Scholarship Prize. I'd like to firstly award the Highly Commended Award winner for 2017, Manavi Jane from University of Sydney. Manavi. And our Guild Scholarship winner for 2017, Eliza Little.
Good evening, everyone. So, as you've heard, Manavi and I are Masters of Teaching students at the University of Sydney. We've got just 2 weeks left of our internships and an action research project in the works that is soon to be submitted. So if I can speak on behalf of both of us, I think we're really champing at the bit to get out there and get into the profession. So as someone who's an almost teacher, it's really great to be here tonight in a room full of really inspiring teachers. And so first of all, I just wanted to thank the Guild for awarding me this scholarship. In particular, I wanted to thank Fran and Fred for meeting with me back in May and awarding me this scholarship, so thank you very much for that. So it was around this time 2 years ago that I decided to resign from my job and enrol in the Masters of Teaching program. I'd spent the previous 3 years working at a school, but in an admin role. And more over my time there, I just tried to push out from my office and get into contact with the students, get alongside the students. So I put my hand up for various roles like sport coaching and Duke of Ed camps, and I did a short stint in boarding as well. And so it was from doing those things that I realised that what I actually really loved was working with the students, and I realised that I wanted to do that all the time, and so I did decide to do the MTeach. So here I am 2 years down the track, feeling very ready to graduate, feeling well equipped with my degree that I've been doing. So I guess receiving this scholarship has been an affirmation of my teaching philosophy, and I guess a recognition that the goals that I have as I go into teaching are on track. I guess I'm taking this as a nod from the Guild that I'm on the right track, hopefully. So I'm someone who really values pastoral care. My role that I had at a school was supporting the head of pastoral care, and she is a brilliant woman, she's a brilliant teacher, and she leads her school really well. She cares for the needs of the girls at her school, and she's just such a positive role model for her students, and so she is someone that I hope to emulate as I become a teacher. And I think I've really taken on her passion for pastoral care from working with her. So one thing that I really want to do with this scholarship is put it towards doing the youth mental health first aid training, so that hopefully I'm a little better equipped to meet the needs of students that I teach with their various mental health needs and just social needs as well. So that's one thing that I'm hoping to do with this scholarship. So also as part of my internship, I'm currently teaching boys. I'm teaching history, and I've got two very mixed ability classes and one small class of boys who have various diagnosed disabilities and really high learning needs. So I've loved teaching them. It's been a real challenge, but it's been hugely rewarding as well. But I think from really doing this internship, because it's 9 weeks rather than just a 4-week prac, I've seen the ins and outs of teaching a little bit more, and I've seen the real need to have a support network. So that's why I'm excited to now be part of this community, be part of the Teachers Guild, because I've seen the way that you support and encourage and enrich your teachers and that's something that I want to buy into because I've seen a lot of new grad teachers. My husband is a teacher as well. He's here with me tonight. He's about 4 years into his teaching career, so I've got someone to follow. I've seen what it's been like. And from friends as well, I've seen that there can be a real risk of burnout for new grad teachers if they're not well supported. So I'm excited to be part of the Guild now. When I start my teaching career, I don't know if that's going to be next term or next year, it's all up in the air still, but I'm really excited to be part of a school community again. So when you're on prac, you're not really fully part of the school community. There's only certain things that you can get involved in. So I'm excited to jump straight back into a school community, have my own classes rather than borrowing them from people, have my own pastoral care group, all those sorts of things. It's a slightly daunting thought, but it's exciting at the same time. But yeah, I'm really excited to start teaching students, whether that's going to be history or French, I don't know yet. But yeah, I'm excited to get alongside students, watch them learn, encourage them to engage with their world. And I think it's a real privilege to be a role model for students. So yeah, it's an honour that I don't take lightly. But yeah, I'm excited to join the teaching profession and follow in your footsteps. So thank you.
We now move on to the Research Award, and it would be appropriate to actually ask David Herring to come forward as also our sponsor from the Teachers Mutual Bank to help with Philip to award the recipients. The Research Award has been created to encourage excellence in research work and is offered to a postgrad student and or experienced teacher in New South Wales schools who is currently completing or completed a research of direct benefit to classroom teaching within the last 2 years. It gives me great pleasure to award Highly Commended Award to Wendy Sammy Lee. The Teachers Mutual Bank Award, Catherine Cartwright. And the 2017 winner of the Research Award, Lisa Allen.
Good evening, everyone. I feel very privileged and fortunate to receive the Teachers Guild of New South Wales Research Award for 2017. This is an especially exciting year to win because the Guild is celebrating the 125 years, so I feel very honoured. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Teachers Mutual Bank and the Teachers Guild of New South Wales for making this award possible. The award has provided me with an avenue to share my ideas among like-minded colleagues who share a common goal. That goal being to positively shape the lives of children by providing the best education possible. Research, in particular action research, is a crucial element to improving practice. Action research empowers educators to gather and use data to guide their teaching practice, leading directly to actions that promote positive change. Seeing students grow is probably the greatest joy educators can experience, and this ability to make a difference as a result of one's research is what makes the commitment and effort involved completely worthwhile. My own action research project sought to explore ways to develop the self-efficacy of mathematically gifted students. As a result of my research, I realised the potential of structured self-reflective tools as a means to develop a student's capacity to more accurately self-appraise their ability, and as a result, to more confidently tackle problem-solving challenges. Looking forward to the future, I plan to pursue further research with the aim of implementing other teaching strategies which focus on developing self-efficacy in gifted students, but across other areas of the curriculum. I believe in the value of educational research if we are to continually strive to enhance our skills as educators. The Teachers Guild acknowledges the same value, which is reinforced by the awards they so generously offer. Thank you once again to the Guild for its ongoing encouragement of educators to continually strive in this rewarding profession. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our proceedings for tonight. I hope you've enjoyed a wonderful occasion of celebrating our 125th year, but most importantly, recognising outstanding educators in our profession. It's our outstanding educators make a difference to our children growing up in schools. If we don't recognise and identify educators that we identified tonight, we won't have any of our teachers teaching our boys and girls growing up in schools. So it's really important that we actually advocate and also recognise our teachers of the future. I'd like to conclude by thanking firstly Trinity Grammar School for hosting this event once again, and to Mr Milton Chewers, who's been a very strong supporter of the Teachers Guild of New South Wales for many, many years. We understand that his retirement at the end of this year, and he sends his apologies, and he wanted to be here tonight, but he couldn't. But he's always thinking about the Teachers Guild of New South Wales and has been a strong advocate of the Guild for many, many years while he's been the headmaster at the school. We thank Milton Chewers for all his time and hopefully continuing with the Teachers Guild in the future. I'd like to also acknowledge our sponsors, the Teachers Mutual Bank, also Anzac Education, for their generous sponsorship of our awards. And having sponsorship is very important to actually acknowledging our awardees. So we would like to thank David, Michael and Simon for being here tonight, and we thank you for your long-term support. Thank you. I'd like to thank Philip Heath. Philip, you're a great friend and always in our hearts, and we thank you for being here tonight and sharing your reflections and keeping on the good work that you're doing at the Barker School, especially with the implementation of co-ed. We wish you all the very best in that process. For all our awardees, life members, I'd like to thank you tonight. God bless, and all the fathers out there, happy Father's Day. Thank you very much.